everybody, so in this video we're going to talk about organizing your curriculum. Now it is July, which is great. That means it's full throttle summer, and for a homeschooling parent, a lot of times that means you are in the throes of selecting, purchasing, and organizing curriculum. So if you happen to be in that first section of you're still selecting curriculum, you're working on a budget and listing out what all you need to buy, I have a free tool that'll help you with that. Just head over to wiserhomeschool.com/worksheet and you can have that for free, and it'll just help you get that organized out before you place your order. Chances are, if you're watching this video, you already placed your order and you breathed a deep sigh of relief once you finally got that order in, only to be surprised when the box showed up and it was full of all this stuff that now you've got to figure out what to do with. If you happen to order from BJU Press, then you have come to the right place. I've been using BJU Press with their online and books for almost 12 years now. We now have 4 kids that are using BJU. We've used them the whole way. Some courses we've done both with videos and books. Some courses we've done books only. We've just found what works for us along the way. But one popular option that I'm still a really big supporter of is when you just order the full grade kit, online videos with books. And if that's you, then I'm going to show you what to expect when that box arrives, or if you've already started digging through it and you're trying to figure out what to do with it, I'm going to give you some tips for that as well. So enough of all of that, let's get started. So the materials you would need to do my method of organizing would be 1 or 2 3-ring binders per child, recommended 3-inch thickness to these binders, divider tabs with enough dividers per subject for each binder. In addition, you may need a 3-ring hole punch. Now, if you've already gotten your box, or if you've watched my unboxing video from when we opened our 10th grade curriculum earlier this year, then you already know what you're looking at. You can typically expect that for each subject in your grade kit, you're going to have a textbook, a consumable workbook, what they oftentimes call work text, or a student manual or activity manual. And then you're going to have, for the younger grades, a test packet, a test answer key packet. And then the thing that throws a lot of parents a curveball is the handout packet. And a lot of times you're not expecting this, and so you don't know what to do with it when you get it. So I'm going to break that down for you pretty simply. The student handout packet is BJU's way of over-delivering. You know, they say it's better to under-promise and over-deliver so that your customers are surprised with how much value they get. This is BJU's way of putting more than enough in your hands for what you need for the school year. This is not supposed to be daunting and overwhelming and stressful. This is, if you've seen my curriculum buffet video, then you already know what I mean about having more than enough tools, more than enough worksheets, more than enough resources to help you teach and reinforce any concept as you go. You are most likely, if you're like me at all, not going to use this entire handout by the end of the year, but you do need to know how to organize it so that you know where to find things when you need them. So let me just show you what you might expect to find in the student handout. I have here in front of me the student handout packets from Fundamentals of Literature and Writing and Grammar 9. Together, Writing and Grammar and Literature make English 9. So these are each half-year courses, so I get a handout packet for literature and I get a handout packet for writing and grammar. Now, in the beginning of each handout packet, you're going to find a little introductory page, maybe 2, with some instructions or an overview, and then you're going to find your video lesson guide. This is a wonderful tool with a disclaimer. It's a wonderful tool. I used to use it all the time. However, since BJU rolled out their newer Homeschool Hub a few years ago, it's a more robust online portal for both parents and children to use as they're working through the course. We don't use our printed video lesson guides as often. What we have found is that in the recent years, we're not referring to this as much as we are just going to the Homeschool Hub and checking things off there as we go. However, early on, when I first started homeschooling, I used this at the beginning of every year pretty religiously. I would go through the video lesson guide because they have a lot of instructions about the lesson for each day and the assignments. And if you've watched my video about 9 ways to shorten your day or your year, I referred to going through at the beginning of the year and consolidating lessons. This is what I used to do that. I would go through and handwrite on this list, scratch out days that I thought we could skip or things that we wouldn't need, work days. I would combine chapter reviews with test days, things like that. And I would cut down our count of our days right away. I do like having the paper form for those purposes because it lays out the day number. And most of BJU's courses are laid out in either a 90-day for a half year or a 180-day for a full year format. So it would let me go through and give me a way at a glance to see what our school year was going to shape up to look like and where I could afford to squeeze some things down and save some time in the long run. So just referencing that if you happen to watch the other video. So after you get that video lesson guide pulled out, then chances are your very next thing is going to be handouts. You say, okay, well, I already knew it was a handout packet. So this is supplemental stuff. This is stuff that as your kid goes through the course, there may be times that the teacher says, now go find your day 3 handout. And they'll show an example on the screen and your child will need to find the corresponding paper from their packet. What this is doing is it's helping any families who don't have a printer or access to printing on demand. It's helping anyone who just doesn't want to take the expense or the time to print all of these things so that you already have it at the beginning of the year in one place and you can go get what you need. What we have found is because they send these handouts, we actually have very minimal need to print off things. Anything we're printing off is just because we want to, not because we have to. So I appreciate that they do that. Now, there are going to be a lot of handouts that the teacher doesn't necessarily say, go get. And those are things that you can use if you choose to, if you feel that you need them. For example, with math, and this is an Algebra 1 handout packet, it had the video lesson guide in the beginning, and then it got to the handout section, or actually, I'm sorry, they call it a student guide section for this level of math. And it has a student guide that actually my children use these. These are for the older kids again. The younger kids don't have these. And they go through and they can work through and check things off as they go. Now, again, if they're using the Homeschool Hub, they may find that they don't even need this, but it's there if you want the paper format to be able to follow along. Another thing you're going to find out in the math handouts a lot of times are going to be fact reviews. They may just have pages and pages of fact reviews. Now, I'll be honest with you. At the end of the year, I usually throw away a lot of unused fact review pages just because I didn't feel that we needed them. But when we do want them, when I feel like they need some reinforcement, it is so great to have those there. In fact, I made a game out of it last year. At one point, I was going through notebooks and I found all of these unused fact reviews. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to give them a challenge. So I pulled a bunch of them out and gave them to my 2 youngest sons. And I told them, hey, I'm going to give you a penny for every fact that you get right on these papers. And, you know, they loved making a contest out of it to see who could get the most right. So it was fun. If it had gotten out of hand, I would have shut it down. But it was a lot of fun for them. They just went through like 10 pages each of fact reviews. And I felt like it was a fun way for them to reinforce their learning and have a good time without sitting there saying, well, you can't be done with math today until you do a fact review. It wasn't like that. It was just something we used because it was there, but not something that we force them to do. So a lot of times the math handouts will have things like that. In this case, being a writing and grammar handout packet, you're going to find a lot of times rubrics, the guides for you to use to grade papers. So the rubric will tell you what to be looking for in a writing assignment and help you with your grading scale for how to grade that. Of course, you're the parent, so you decide how you want to grade it, but it's there for you to use. And that's also awesome because, hey, I'm not watching the videos with them. So I need a rubric to tell me what the teacher had told them to do. I'm not always right there involved at every minute of every day, especially at grade 9, okay? At grade 9, he is largely independent, doing a lot of this himself. So it helps me to have something like that rubric that shows me what I'm looking for. There will also be some templates that the students can use for particular assignments or supplemental work, like I said. There will be other study skills, other activities that they can do, and they can use these, but they don't always have to. So at the end of the year, I'm going through and I'm throwing away all of the unused stuff or recycling, whatever the case may be. So that's pretty much what to expect out of these student handout packets. Your video lesson guide, and then the handouts or any student guides that go along with that particular course. To show you the examples from literature, once we got back here after the video lesson guide, there's a student guide similar to what I showed you in Algebra 1. And the student can go through and keep these as a checklist for themselves if they'd like. And then after that are more handouts with the extra supplemental type stuff. Don't let this overwhelm you, again, because there have been years that we've used these very little, and there have been other years that we've used them a lot, and I was just really glad to have them there. So your next question is, how do I organize these? What do I do with them? Now, I know that there are a lot of approaches to organizing curriculum and paperwork for homeschooling. I can't go into depth on all of the approaches because I don't know them. I just know what I have done and what has worked for us. I know that some people like to do the spiral binding of their workbooks and extra papers and stuff. Personally, I've never messed with that. Now, I have access to a comb binder from an office that I worked in for years, that if I wanted to go and do comb binding on all of these things, I could, but I don't really see the payoff in putting that much time or expense into binding these things when I could just use a simple 3-ring binder. However, what I ran into with 3-ring binders was, in the old days, I tried to do 3-ring binders for everything. You know, if there was an English work textbook, you know, that I thought was going to fall apart, I would punch holes and put it in a 3-ring binder. And then I would do the same for the math workbook and all these different things. And then I had all our handouts in binders. And before you know it, we're being overrun with binders. Then I would, at the end of the year, put all those binders on a shelf. Well, you know what? Once you've got some kids that have been in school a few years, and then you have 4 kids, that's a lot of binders. And I was running out of shelf space. So I had to come up with a different solution. So let me show you what has worked for us, and you can perhaps adapt it to however would best work for you. What I do now, I use 1 or 2 binders per child per year total. Then at the end of the year, I clear these binders out and reuse them again for the next year. So no longer do I have shelves and shelves of binders. Instead, my long-term filing has shifted to a different system that I'll try to tell you about in the next video. And then my short-term system, and all of these handouts that we just talked about, is being confined to 1 or 2 of these, and that's it. And again, I'm showing you 2 different approaches to the same strategy. I used to have, you can see this says Miles Mom's Book. I used to have a mom's book and a student's book for each kid for each year. And what I would do is I would separate out the video lesson guide, the test, and the test answer keys, and I would put all of those in my mom's book. I would also keep my master calendar there. I would keep my lesson plans, which, by the way, if you're looking for an awesome way to lay out your lesson plans and have them at your fingertips and also be able to change them as you go, I have developed a very robust Excel workbook that you can get at wiserhomeschool.com/lesson plans. It's a one-time purchase, and you can use it as many times as you need to for as many kids, for as many years. It's yours to use forever. So it's a great tool that will help you lay out your whole year. And I also have a little instructional video. So if you're not sure kind of how to navigate some of those things in Excel, it shows you how to do it all on one tab. And then it generates up to 52 weeks of lesson plans for you. It's pretty cool. I like it a lot. So maybe check that out if you're interested. So my mom book would have any of that master stuff that was mine, the master calendar, the lesson plans, those video lesson guides, etc. And of course, the test answer keys and things like that. Then the student book, and I know this says mom book, but I'll tell you about that in a second. The student book would have a tab for each subject. This year, I actually did this one a little differently because I used that numbering tab system. You know, you buy the ones that you like for you. But for most years, I've used the ones where it's just the tab that you write the subject name on. And then I would put the students' handouts behind that subject. Now, what I've started doing in recent years, now that my youngest is 8 and he can pretty much manage a binder without destroying it. You know, it used to be that the younger kids, if they go to get one thing out of the binder, the whole thing falls apart and you're having to put it all back together. We haven't had that happen in a long time, thankfully. So what I've gotten to now is I will just do one book, and behind that subject tab, I will have, if needed, the video lesson guide, the test answer key, and then the handouts. What I've gotten to the point of now is I will put it all in there for my kids, and I trust them. So far, we've not had any issues with cheating or things like that. But I will have them where they have, in the beginning of this tab is for math. It would have the video lesson guide in the front, and then immediately after that, I'll put the test answer key, and there's a reason for that. And then I would have the tests themselves. And what I'll have them do is I'll have all the tests kept in the binder. And again, when they're younger, I would do this for them. I would go get the test. When they were done, I would put it back. What I do with these tests is I have them work front to back so that, you know, they take the test out that they need. If they're on chapter 1, they'll do the test. When they're done with the test and we've graded it, they will go to the very back of that subject section and put it in the back of the test section. So basically then the next time they go to get their next test, the chapter 2 blank one would be next. Now he's already finished with this subject, so that's why all of these are filled out. But what that did for me is that keeps all of the tests in one place, because the test grades are what I'm basing most of our grades off of. I give a lot of completion grades, but again, grading is another subject for another video. But I really need to keep track of these tests. So that's how I keep track of them. They start and end in the mom binder. They stay right there. The kid takes them out to take the test, and then they go back in there until the end of the year when I record all of the grades and file them away. I'm also working on a gradebook spreadsheet. For those of you who like spreadsheets, I'm here for you. I've got it for you. So I'm working on a gradebook spreadsheet that I'll be rolling out really, really soon. I'm super excited about it because it is the best gradebook that I have found so far for me to use in my homeschool. So anyway, that's how I handle the binders. So again, just to be clear, if I were doing the 2 binder system still, I would have a student binder that would only have those handouts per subject. All the subjects would be in one binder. And then I would have my mom book, again, with the subject tabs, that would have the video lesson guide, the test answer key, and the test packet. So that's how I would separate that out. And then usually my mom book, I would have in the front of it any of my master calendars and lesson plans and things like that. So I hope that makes sense for how to do your short-term paperwork. Now you may ask, what about workbooks? What do I do? Do I tear out work text sheets? You know, I mentioned that I don't do spiral binding. For quite a few years now, we have just worked straight out of the workbooks the way they come. I have not had the kids pulling out work text pages, because then they become loose leaf. And when papers become loose leaf, then they go everywhere in my house. The only thing worse than loose leaf papers in my house are Legos. Okay. Any room you walk into, I would almost bet money that if you look hard enough, you will find Legos somewhere on the floor. On a crevice or in an air vent, or so, they're everywhere. Loose leaf paper in my house is a lot the same way. So I try to eliminate loose leaf paper as much as possible. Now, when they were younger, especially kindergarten, pre-K, kindergarten, first grade, I did do a lot of the pulling out what sheets they needed. And I will show you a tool for that I found that was really cool too, just in 1 minute. But what I do now is we keep the papers in their workbooks. Yes, the workbooks fall apart as the year goes by. They're working at them constantly. These books are made so that you can easily tear the sheets out. So it's natural that, yes, they may fall apart. What we have done is I bought one of these pocket organizers. It just hangs on a door and it has 4 pockets, and I have 4 kids. So it works out really well. So when they have a research report, some kind of loose leaf work text, something that needs to be put somewhere, and I don't have time to look at it right then and file it, it goes here. So this is my daughter's pocket because she's the oldest, hence the tallest. Not for long though. Her brother is catching up with her. 1, 2, 3, 4. They know which pocket is theirs. This hangs on a door, and they know where they can go put their stuff. Now, I am not going to lie to you and tell you that my kids always put papers where they're supposed to, because again, it's a whole fiasco around here. But this is a way that keeps our sanity and keeps things from completely going haywire all the time. So this is like a holding point for me for when the papers have been done and maybe I need to review them and then decide what to keep, what to file away, things like that. Now, in the younger grades, I did pull out their worksheets for each day the way that the curriculum lays out. Like it would say, for this day, you're going to need to have your reading page from number this, your math page number this, your phonics page number this, whatever. I somehow had this little accordion file in my house. I don't even know where it came from. I think maybe my husband brought it home from the office one day or something. I don't know. What I did that I found out saved me a lot of time back in those early years, and if you're just starting out, this might help you. I would put a day number on each of these tabs, and then I would go through that video lesson guide and pull out the work text pages that I needed, and I could do 12 days, which depending on how your work week is, that's 2 or 3 weeks of work. I could get all of those papers sorted out. I would get the manipulatives, the little circles and cutouts and things that they needed for counting and stuff. I would put those in a Ziploc bag and I would drop them in each day so that each morning I could go to this file, pull out the papers that they needed and put it in the folders they needed for starting their work. I don't know if that will help you, but that was just a tip that really made life easier there in the beginning, especially when I was, starting out schooling a 4-year-old and had a 2-year-old and was pregnant, with another baby. And before long after that, another one. So when you're raising toddlers and you're nursing babies and you're homeschooling, it helps to have a few tricks up your sleeve that help you okay, if I can grab an hour on a Saturday and just organize a bunch of papers, then that saves me work and a lot of time for the next 2 or 3 weeks of school. So that's one tip to help you with that. Now, long-term storage is another topic, and I'm going to save that for another video. But I hope that this has helped you to understand a good, simple approach to just organizing that out-of-the-box curriculum that you're getting from BJU Press. And again, I just want to encourage you not to let it overwhelm you. I know in the beginning, it all feels overwhelming, but trust me, you are going to find your rhythm with this. And don't forget that you're not trying to find the right way to organize. The right way for you to organize is whichever way is most sustainable for you. I am great at building complex systems, but it has to be something that I will actually do on the regular, right? So whatever you feel like is maintainable for you. Spiral binding may be great for some people. For me, there are some years that we get the box, open it up, and the kids start working before I've even gone through everything yet. So I'm not always going to be able to take the time to go spiral bind stuff. So what I can do is I can throw some tab dividers into a 3-ring binder, punch some holes, and get everything squared away where I at least know where to find stuff. That I can do pretty quickly and pretty easily, and I can maintain that on an ongoing basis. So see if that works for you. If there's been anything at all that you have a question about, please drop it in the comments. I'm happy to expound on it further. And I will see you in the next video where we will talk more about the long-term storage. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and share this video if you know another mom who could benefit from it. Thanks, and I'll see you soon.